Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ma'am and friends. We are from the second group, and today we will try to present the new topic from our subject, English Language Teaching Methodology and Innovation. There are three topics that will be presented today. The first one is speaking, the second one is listening, and the last one is reading. Okay, the first topic is about speaking, and it will be presented by our friend Ade Suci Oktariani. To Ade, time is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Nur. Good afternoon, everyone and ma'am. Today I'm going to explain about teaching speaking. And then, as we know, speaking is considered as the basic ability for people who knows how to use the language. And then I think so far it has becoming the most demanding skills out of four, like listening, writing, and reading, because speaking could be really, really challenging for the student and also for the teacher itself. And then when we try to teach speakings, there are a lot of things that we expect from the students. For example, do they able to use idioms? Do they able to use slang language? And then do they know how to use vowel reduction and also contraction to make the speaking itself to become natural there, rather than formal sounding? So in order to overcome and cope with the situation, we can try to teach oral skill. So, what is oral skill? Oral skill itself is like a speech enhancer that are used to produce clear sentences that are intelligible to the audience. So, in oral skill, we expect the students to speak in clarity, which is effective in communication. So, there are two types of oral skill. The first one is formal communication, such as classroom lectures, speeches, and also meeting presentation. And then the second one is the informal communication, such as casual phone or dinner table conversation. In order to teach the oral skill itself, there are things that we can consider before we structure the activity. The first one is, who are they? We can start to ask this kind of question. If we ask who are they or the students, we would know like what the level of the student itself, whether we have to teach adult, whether we have to teach young learners, for example. If we know who the students are, we would be able to identify their needs and also what kind of activities that is actually suitable for them. And then the second one, why are they there? We have to know the purpose of the students to learn the language, whether they learn the language for educational purpose or to make them to be more fluent in conversation class, for example. And then we have to ask again, what do they expect to learn? And then what am I expected to teach? All right, to promote teaching oral skill, there are several activities that we can do. The first one is discussion. So I think discussion itself is the most commonly used activity in oral skill. In this section or in this activity, the students are introduced to a topic. It could be by reading or probably listening or probably watching a videotape. And then later they could be asked to get into pairs or group to discuss the related topics in order to come up with solution, response, and so on. Second one is speeches. This one is also a very common activity in the oral skill class. In here, usually the teacher could give topic of the speech depending on the level of the students and also the focus of the class. But sometimes the teacher like to give like structure of the speech, whether it is rhetorical genre, for example, whether the speech related to narration, description, and also sometimes the teacher give like the time limit or the time restriction on how the speech would be delivered. So while the students select the content, they can try to what is it, arrange the speech and also type of activities that we can ask for the students. For example, could you please tell us about unforgettable experience you had, or probably they can give speech about natural disaster and so on. All right, the third one is role play. Okay, role play I think is quite famous among young learners itself because it is basically suitable for practicing the sociocultural variation in speech act. In here, there are a lot of situations that we could assign, whether they can do role play for complaining or buying something in the store. So, depending on the student's level, the role play itself can be performed by prepared script, or sometimes the student is asked by the teacher to make their own script. So I think it's kind of a really fun activity because there are a lot of variation of role play that they can do during the lesson. And then the next one is conversation. um, I think conversation is the most fundamental one for communication, and then it is basically like a way to approach the activity that has been assigned by the teacher to the students. So for the conversation type of activity that I can suggest here, by talking to a native speaker, for example, they go to the nearest tourism site and then try to, like um, make an interaction with this person, talking about several topics. For example, what do they think about this tourist site, what they should improve, and so on. All right, and then the next one is audio tape, oral journal, and the last one is other accuracy-based activities like interview or 2-minute conversation. Next. Okay, in teaching oral skill in EFL context, of course, there are challenges that the teachers and also the students itself have to face, right? For example, the first one, the challenge was described by Noonan. In 1993, Noonan said that the biggest challenges in the EFL classroom is to be lack of motivation. Getting students to speak because of the cultural issue. For some words, speaking in the class is prohibited except when called on, and the use of the first language. And I think I can see this a lot in my own classroom because they tend to avoid speaking class or like doing conversation with their friends because they probably are scared whether they speak grammatically accurate, whether their pronunciation is good or not because of the cultural issue mentioned by the Nunan itself, and also their lack of motivation. They probably too scared to do it. So yeah, that is the first challenge. The second challenge is communicative competence. So basically, communicative competence itself is like the ability of language learners to interact with other speakers to make meaning, and also distinct from the ability to perform and also discrete points test of grammatical knowledge. And also in communicative competence, it requires understanding of social cultural context and also language use. But then there are a lot of students who face this challenge like communicative competence because they don't know how to express themselves in certain what is it social cultural context, what kind of expression that they have to use when they need to talk about food, for example, because they have no vocabulary and so on. So yeah, that is one of the challenge. And solutions that we can offer for this situation is by organizing class activities that are authentic, motivating, and varied. And of course, in order to organize class activities that are authentic, motivating, and varied, we can apply several teaching styles or methodology. Also, we have to know the student needs and also their level. And then the second one is the use of authentic materials, and we can also use technologies like videos, television shows, radio program to promote the what is it the fun ambience in the classroom. And also we can try to do outdoor activities like going to tourism sites like I told you guys before, so they can do interview to make them more actively speaking in daily basis. Next. Okay, so there are four skills areas of speaking competence that are required for effective communication by GOV 2007. The first one is phonological skill. So in phonological skills, learners need to be able to blend phonemes of the language they are learning. And in addition, they must use appropriate stress and also intonation. And then for the interactional skill, as speaking competence means that the learners need to achieve specific communicative function in social and also transactional exchanges, such as agreeing with someone. They have to be able to asking for clarification where they don't understand about what people say, and also they need to be able to offer reason. The next one is interactional skill. So basically, interactional skill itself is like oh sorry face-to-face exchanges. So learners must be managed interaction by regulating turn taking, redirecting the topic, negotiating meaning, and also they need to initiate and also maintaining and also closing the conversation. And the last one is extended discourse skills. So in these skills, the learner must often produce long stretches of uninterrupted language, and they need to structure what they say so it is easy for others to understand what they say. So the discourse of what they speak or the spoken discourse should be coherent and also um, cohes- coherence and also cohesion to each other. All right. And then the next one, I would like to tell you about the principles in teaching speaking skill. So, in teaching speaking skill, there are 6 principles that we have to be aware. The first one is we need to be aware of the difference between second language and also foreign language learning courses. And also, we have to give students chance to practice the speaking, both fluency and also accuracy. We also need to provide opportunities for students to talk. They can talk in group and probably work pair. And also, as a teacher, we need to be aware about our position in the classroom. So we are not the one who um, do a lot of speaking in the speaking classroom, but instead the students need to actively do the conversation. So we have to limit the teacher's talk, and then we also have to plan speaking tasks that involve negotiation and also meaning. We can also design classroom activities that involve guidance, and the last one we can practice in both transactional and also interactional speaking. All right, next will be explained by Mbak Nur.
Okay, thank you for the time, Ade. I will try to continue the presentation, and the topic is about listening. Okay, as we know that there are 4 skills in language learning. They are listening, reading, speaking, and also writing. And from all of these skills, listening is known as the basic skills in language learning because from listening we can receive the target language input, and that from listening we can also improve our another skill. For example, like um, speaking, we can learn how to pronounce the word. Even we know that the kids they will learn and also they will say something based on what they listened. And also from listening we can try to analyze about the topic that we listen to, and we will try to comprehend about the topic from the spoken language. And according to Richard, there are 2 different processes involved in our listening comprehension. The first one is bottom-up process. Okay, bottom-up process refers to the incoming data as a source of information to get the meaning of the message. It means that um, the comprehension process in our listening will be started after we get um, the information from the topic that we listened. Okay, so the information can be gotten from the sounds, the word, or the sentence from the topic that we listen to. So after that, we will try to analyze that information to get the meaning of the topic. Okay, and the second process is top-down process. Top-down process refers to the use of our background knowledge to understand the meaning of the message. Okay, so actually top-down process can be related to bottom-up process. After we get the information such as word, clause, or even the sentence, we can use the top-down process to understand, to make sense the meaning of the topic that we listen to by using and by relating our background knowledge to that topic. Okay, the next is about principles. There are four principles in teaching listening skills. The first one is teach students to use both process, bottom-up process and top-down process. As what I have explained before that bottom-up process will be started after we receive the target language input, and top-down process is about relating that information by using our background knowledge to make sense the topic that we listen to. Okay, here is the example. Okay, for example, like we are listening one topic and we from bottom up process we listen the information and its form shape the word and it is shape, but we don't know which shape that the topic means. And the next sentence, we will hear the president in the president is on the ship. So from that sentence, we can use our top-down process to make sense which ship that topic means. So it's of course it's not the ship which that is animals. So teaching both of them process will be really useful for the students to improve their listening skills. Okay, the second principle is incorporate a range of the text types into the listening lesson. Okay, except for teaching the students about the process, we should introduce the student and also give the students the knowledge about the text type, all of the text type. So it will be really useful and also it will give benefit for the students when they know the text type so they are able to choose the appropriate strategy that will be done for them that will be used for them to try to comprehend the topic that they will listen to. Okay, the next principle is incorporate a range of pedagogical and real world tasks into the lesson. Okay, in this principle, we will talk about the task that will be done by the students when they listen something or after they listen the topic. Generally, we will find the kind of task like the student will choose the option between true or false, or maybe to fill the blanks to complete the sentence. But this kind of task is not really applied in the students' real life outside the classroom. So we should consider the kind of task that is real and it is really useful for the students and also can be applied by the student inside and also outside the classroom. For example, um, the task that listening can involve another skill. So after the students listen the topic, we ask the student to present or maybe write what they understand about the topic. So that's one of the example from the task. Okay, the next is about incorporate strategy training into the teaching. Okay, so it's about the strategy, and there are six strategies that is identified by Mike Oroz 2002. Uh, it's about predicting, inferring, monitoring, clarifying, and also responding, and also evaluating. But before we choose the appropriate strategy for the student to be used in the listening, so we should make sure that the students know and also understand about the text type. So from the text type, they will know what kind of purpose of their listening. So it will make them to choose the appropriate strategy to be used to understand, to comprehend the topic that they will listen to. Okay, the next one is about reading topic and it will be presented by our friend Gesna. So Gesna, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Nurbaiti. I will explanation about reading. There are three models have been proposed for the reading process. The first is bottom-up reading. The second is top-down reading, and the third interactive reading. Next, Mbak. Okay, the first bottom-up reading. Uh, in the approach, learners are told to decode letters from their written to their oral prompt, and then to blend these together to form words along the lines described in the previous paragraph. Okay, in bottom-up reading, problem with the bottom-up theory of reading is that it's just text so long to transform symbols into sounds. The second is top-down reading. Uh, According to Anderson, 2008, suggests that top-down reading begins with the idea that comprehensions reside in the reader. The reader uses background knowledge, makes predictions, and searches the text to confirm or reject the prediction that are made. Okay, there are some problems in top-down reading. The first is reading text even longer than decoding, and the second is if the reader doesn't have the relevant background knowledge, then he or she has to rely on the background knowledge to understand the text. But next. Okay, the third is interactive reading. The approach that is generally accepted as the most adequate explanation of the reading process is an interactive one. This approach combines elements of bottom-up and top-down approaches. The best readers in any language are those who combine elements of both. For example, most readers begin reading by using top-down reading strategies until there is a problem, and then they shift to bottom-up strategies. Have you ever read something quickly and suddenly come to several new words? You are required to slow down your reading to decode the new words. When you do this, you are using bottom-up strategies to understand the words. By Anderson 2008. Next, Mbak. Okay, there are three principles of the reading process. The first is build a strong vocabulary base. Uh, Vocabulary is important for all aspects of language use, none more so than reading. Extensive reading is one of the most effective ways to developing a rich vocabulary. Anderson recommends that we ask ourselves the following questions, which he has taken from Nations 1990. The first question is, what vocabulary do my learners need to know? The second is, how will they learn this vocabulary? And the last question is, how can I best test to see what they need to know and what they now know. And the second principles is teach for comprehensions. It is important for readers to be thinking about what they're doing as they read, a process that Anderson refers to as comprehensions monitoring. A useful technique for doing this called questioning the author. Beck et al. 1997. The questions might include the first is, what is the author trying to tell me here? And the second question is, how does this connect with what he wrote in the previous paragraph? And the last question is, what's the author's most important point here? And the third principles is encourage readers to transform strategies into skills. Uh, Strategies are the mental and communicative processes that learners deploy to learn a second language. For example, memorizing, inductive learning, deductive learning, by Nunan 1999. Strategies are very important as they are tools that allow the learners to begin to take control of their own learning. Okay, I think that's all from me. Back to Mbak Nurbaiti.
Okay, that's all for the presentation from our group. I'm sorry for our mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.